One, two, one, two,
three. Okay.
All right. Billy D here with Dr. Lewis Hilliard. Before we get started, though, I wanted to throw some big thank yous out to Vox Life for sponsoring these CalJam podcasts. Vox and Jay Dollywall stepped up to the plate big time again this year, and I'm very, very grateful to them and for everything that they do to help CalJam, but also promote chiropractic to the world. I'm very grateful for all our sponsors at CalJam. We could not do it without their support. But I got an interesting dude on the line tonight, Dr. Lewis Hilliard, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you seem like you got kind of that little bit of a New York energy. Is that true?
Yes, Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
went to Life University, graduated in 2004. Of course, I grew up when I was at Life, built a great relationship with Dr. Sid Williams. I was the school mascot while I was there.
What does that mean? You're a mascot.
Yeah, it was called the Running Eagle. So Life University, we used to do basketball games and rugby games and professional sporting events around Atlanta. And, of course, I got to know Dr. Williams very well and very intimately. So throughout my whole schooling time, I got to, go to his house and spend a lot of really good intimate time with him.
Perfect. All right. So, yeah, we have a mutual love of Dr. Sid. If it wasn't for Dr. Sid, I would not be in any position that I'm in right now. Really, every aspect of my life has improved since being exposed to DE. The first time I went back in 1989. Were you even born yet? Yeah, you were born. You said you're 47, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to go off the chiropractic track a little bit tonight. And again, I understand this is not chiropractic. Never said it was chiropractic, but there's certain things that I've put into my life that I feel are beneficial on so many levels. But we're going to talk hyperbaric oxygen. So, Dr. Lewis, you have some huge hyperbaric centers out there in Atlanta, correct? You there?
What I do is I opened up one of the first hyperbaric centers in Atlanta about 15 years ago, and just been really rocking and rolling ever since. And now what I'm doing is setting up other healthcare centers or helping other practitioners around the world with setting them up with hyperbaric oxygen chambers.
Okay. Now, in reality, who could benefit from these chambers?
Anybody that breathes.
Right.
Literally, the spectrum is so wide now. Of course, we have, the usual cases where, people think of hyperbaric and immediately they start thinking of the bends or wound healing for treatments for diabetic wounds. But now hyperbaric has broadened so much with the introduction of what's called a mild hyperbaric chamber. And those are the inflatable chambers that you see. And in most states, chiropractors now can have them in their office. And of course, I'm working with other states to get it recommended or get it approved where chiropractors can actually have it in their office. I think it's a wonderful...
Let me ask a question before. In those states, can an MD use them and a chiropractor can, or who's authorized or licensed to use them in the states where it's not legal for chiropractors to utilize them?
Pretty much medical doctors. And under the FDA law, for a Schedule II medical device, a physician is the only one that's allowed to administer by treating a patient. Now, as a private customer, you can purchase a hyperbaric chamber or a mild hyperbaric chamber with a prescription from your physician or treating physician.
Okay. So otherwise, somebody can't just go buy one. I didn't know that.
Well, somebody can't go buy one and start seeing patients.
No, but if you wanted to use it for your own personal edification, you'd
have to have a prescription.
Okay, so you couldn't just buy one for your house if your kid was autistic or something.
Exactly. You'd want to go and speak to the treating or primary care physician for that child and get a recommendation or, the prescription. And, they give you the prescription. They can buy pretty much, the chambers run anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000 on the high end. And they can choose any one, and they vary in size and shape.
Okay. Now let's talk the difference between the mild chambers and the one that's a little bit more What would you call the non-mild one?
Was like the higher pressure ones.
Okay, higher pressure. So what the
So
pressure
those
in
ones-
the mild one is 1.3 atmospheres, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what is it in a more and those other ones are a little bit more are they made out of metal?
Yeah, anything that's higher than 1.3. So we would say like 1.5, 1.7, 2.0, 2.5 or even higher.
Doesn't that just I mean in the 1.3 it hurts my ears when I'm first going in there. How does a 2.0 feel?
I mean, you definitely have to get used to the pressure. Of course, your first couple of times going to a chamber, you're going to have some pressure on the ears and you're going to feel it. Eventually, the patients start to get used to the pressure, and of course, in how you inflate the chamber. I like to do a gradual compression or inflation of the chamber for the sake of the patient, so their comfort level is minimal with pain.
Okay. And what are the different pros and cons of both the tubes, and where would one be indicated over the other?
Well, that's a great question.
I asked a lot of good friggin' questions.
Yeah, that's a great one. One of the great things with the mild hyperbaric chamber, and that's what my vision was when I opened up Atlanta Hyperbaric Center, was that I seen that there was a need. With the medical chambers that are in the hospitals, they take care of very limited conditions. There's 13 conditions. Okay. We don't have to go over all of them, but pretty much are like gas embolism, diabetic wounds, and so on and so forth. But very limited, and only if insurance paid, and only insurance covers those treatment for those 13 conditions. So that leaves.
So you don't want to go over the 13 conditions, or?
There's really no need to, because we were not even really working it. Now that leaves the other off-label conditions that everybody is really concerned about. And what are those? PTSD, autism, traumatic brain injury. And these are the type of customers that are looking for and able to get the mild hyperbaric chamber, which also we'll think about it as a physician standpoint. If you have a practice, that you can put a chamber in and you can open it up. Now, you're not treating, just like chiropractic, we don't treat for various conditions or diseases. The same thing with this mild hyperbaric. I never said I treat any particular disease, but let me tell you, I've had thousands of patients that have seen remarkable results, whether it be their children with autism, people that have had strokes, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, of course.
What about cancer?
Cancer. I like to. Cancer's a funny one, and I've never admitted to this, and I try to watch what I say. But
of course, we have to. We got to cover our asses sometimes.
Yeah, but I have seen more patients come into my office with cancer and leave my office in remission or cancer gone, and I can thousands. But I've never said, hey, you know what? I cure cancer. Hyperbaric cures cancer, because you can't do that. But you know what? The patients' lives that I saved. Or not even me, just using the therapy with chiropractic,
Of course.
When you start, doing something that's, non-invasive, non-drugging, and you're using the very power of God by releasing the power with the adjustments, and then you put them in a hyperbaric chamber, it's like getting a breath from God.
Right.
Amazing things start to happen. The body starts to heal itself. The white blood cells start to accumulate, start to attack cancers, and then you get what's called, people coming back on, you're crying, saying, hey, my cancer's in remission. Now, do I, like you said, go around saying that? No, I can't, and nor would I. Because I think it's, it's just taking what our chiropractors are about. It's literally the principle. Helping the nervous system function at 100%. Right. And that nervous system not only needs free of interference, it needs oxygen.
Right.
So we give that nervous system oxygen, the body's able to heal and function, at optimal levels, and that's where you start getting peak performance. And that's why, we take care of Atlanta Hyperbaric Center. I think we take care of now 4 of the 5 top NCAA teams in the nation. And of course, a number of NFL players and a number of baseball players and what have you. And the reason why is, of course, they want peak performance, but also they're starting to see the other positive side effects. Right. You start noticing your your senses become better. For me, it was my eyesight, my hearing, my performance. And getting up there a little bit in age, and I'm still young, very young. Of course, not as young as you, but it's you go in there as a lifestyle.
How often do you go in?
I go in at least 3 times a week, at least an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. Okay. Whatever I can handle, whatever my schedule will permit me, but at least an hour 3 times a week.
Okay.
If you can do 2 hours, man, you can handle it. That's all right.
I've never done 2 hours, but I mean, I could definitely plug into that. I've been doing it just once a week, like you said. Time is an issue, but I got to put a little bit more time into it. So, do you want to touch on the fact that the percentage of oxygen in air have dramatically gone down over the past, probably almost last 100 years?
Man, there it is. That's a great point. You can go look over, the valley and look over, California or LA, you can see the smog dome. You go to Stone Mountain or Kennesaw Mountain here in Atlanta, you can see a smog dome over Atlanta. You can pretty much go to any metropolitan area and you're going to see this literally gray smog dome. Literally, people are walking around and they're suffocating. They're not even getting the percentage of oxygen, which you would think is in the air, 21%. The quality of oxygen that we're getting, especially into the metropolitan areas. We're talking about the concrete jungle, the areas where there's no green, there's no vegetation, so there's no photosynthesis going on, there's no enrichment of oxygen, when you have all of, buildings and concrete roads. So with that being said, when you get into those heavy city areas, you're going to get a dramatically decreased of oxygen, but also the quality of air is filled with not only emissions, but also, now we can even, see that what they're spraying, especially in the metropolitan areas. You can call them contrails, chemtrails.
We'll talk about that in a bit, because that's one of the big interests.
But, with also the emissions that are coming from where, how everybody's, living, it all builds up. And then that's where we're getting, the respiratory diseases. But now it's coming.
Hold on, I'm losing you for a second.
Coming up in years.
Okay, go for it.
Is not only is autism, but Alzheimer's.
Oh, dude, are you kidding me?
Alzheimer's is skyrocketing. In 2007, it wasn't even on the top 10 list. And then in 2008, all of a sudden, it's on the 7 top 10 killers in the United States within just 1 year. Alzheimer's and
I didn't know that. So 2008, it was on the top 10 list, and before that, it had never been on the top 10 list.
Exactly. So with that being said, so what happened? What is the shift? Where is the shift? Because now we're starting to see not only more aggressive cancers, but now we're starting to see aggressive neurological diseases, Alzheimer's, ALS, or which is Lou Gehrig's disease, right, and Parkinson's, and a lot of other neurological diseases that are the autism, that is affecting our children. We've been so focused on the medications and the food, what they're putting in the food. Now we got to figure out, hey, what's in our air? Right. But now it's in our air. What are we living in within the frequencies and the Wi-Fi and all of that that's there? So when I start talking to my patients, and I talk to people about creating a healing environment, because right now we have what's called a kill grid that's coming. It's the 5G kill grid. Once that comes, and that's pretty strong language to say it like that.
Well, you know what? I'm not really into candy coating bullshit. It's just like tell them like it is. Yeah. Because that's the only thing that's going to wake them up. If you kind of soft sell this shit, then they're not even going to address it. It's a kill frequency is what it is. We know that, mixed with the chemtrails. But we're going to get to that. Let me backpedal 1 second, though. I'd heard this, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, that pre-industrial revolution, before we hacked off half the forest on the planet, literally, we've gotten rid of really half our respiratory capacity as a planet by deforestation, that pre-industrial revolution, the air was 36% oxygen. I don't know if that's true or not. I read it somewhere, and then I now hear it's 21% in most areas and in most municipalities like LA, Long Beach, and in China, I heard just the other day as low as 11%.
Exactly, I agree. I've read some of those studies as well where the oxygen is that low. And of course, they've always talked about how we've had more nutrients in the ground 150 years ago or even 100 years ago, how we had more nutrients within the air. Literally, with deforestation, you're cutting, literally the oxygen production of the earth. Photosynthesis needs CO2, it needs water, and it needs sunlight. And if it doesn't get those three, we're not going to have adequate amounts, or even four, because you need the chlorophyll, you're not going to have the adequate amounts of oxygen that we need. So there again, when we're moving the people into the cities and we're cutting away the trees and we're cutting away all of the forests or all of the woodland areas and pushing everybody in, people are going to start to get even more sick, or diseases are going to become more rampant as well as more aggressive. And that's not even just what Dr. Hilliard's opinion, that's what all of the medical scientists starting to say what's going on with the decreased amount of oxygen that's within the air.
Okay, cool. So you've heard the same thing.
Yeah.
Now you hit on another point there, decreased photosynthesis. So back to, let's call it geoengineering, just to keep the chemtrail people off our backs.
Yeah.
Because it's geoengineering is going on, whether people want to believe it or not, or whether, what do you want to call it, chemtrails or contrails?
I like to say, geoengineering for the chemtrails, and it's in the name of what? Climate change.
Right. And it's also in SRM, solar radiation management. I think that's the one that most people can understand.
Yeah.
And the problem with solar radiation management, like you said, it's going to lower the amount of sunlight that comes through. I mean, I've heard we've diminished the amount of sunlight that comes through up to 25% to a point where the plankton are not as, the higher, we've got lower percentage of plankton than we used to have, which is the bottom, the bottom of the food chain.
You can see what's going on in Florida right now with the red algae that's killing all of the manatees and all the fish. That literally ecosystems are changing all over the world. On the Pacific side, we can even get into that in a little bit, but ecosystems are changing, as well as just walk in the mall, go to the park, take a look at everybody. You can, I was at the community pool the other day, and everybody was overweight, and I'm not saying some of the people, everybody was drugged down. They were like zombies in another world. And nobody was really happy. Nobody, of course, was interacting.
Well, they were on their phone, right?
Either they're on their phone or they were just focused on themselves or their child. And everybody was just more about them, where they can get their spot, where they can get, how quick they can get their food and stand in line to get it. And it was, it was a little depressing because I'm going, what has happened to our country? I remember as a kid, we used to, run around, and when the lights came on, that was the time to go home. But we played hide and go seek and do all these great things. Now you can go through the neighborhoods. Of course, they're completely empty, and of course, and if you leave your child out, you might even get arrested for child endangerment. But we don't need to get into all of that right now either.
It's outside my scope.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at, for me, is number one, brain health is, I think, the biggest thing that I'm concerned about, especially with Alzheimer's. I'm also looking at increasing energy. I mean, obviously, we need O2 to create energy in the body. Do you want to also add anything? Let me ask you this.
Let me add some things real quick on that brain health.
Okay.
Right now, more than ever, chiropractors around the world are so much more empowered, because with the neurological diseases that are coming or that are already here from not only just with the particles that they're spraying with the aluminum and the lithium and the bromides and all of that, but also what's happening is with this 5G that's coming out.
Yeah, talk about that.
It's way different than the 4G because it's now, instead of radio waves, which are meter-length waves, we're going to talk about millimeter waves that are literally inches or millimeters apart. They're high-frequency waves. These are short waves that can penetrate, that are known to cause, of course, whether it be irritation of the skin is a mild thing, but also how it affects the nervous system and the brain function itself. I sent you via Skype here one of the U.S. patents, and it's U.S. patent 6,506,148 B2. I sent you the link to the patent, and it's actually a patent that deals with radio frequencies through the monitors and how it can literally, and how they're using frequencies now through our monitors. And people are going to think, okay, oh yeah, it's our TV monitor, or it's our TV on the wall, or it's our computer monitor. No, it's also our phone monitors, that they can literally now impulse messages and cause us to think a certain way, act a certain way, cause aggression, irritation. And we've seen it, like literally, some people that have smartphones at times, they can't even put them down. You know, they're addicted. As soon as they get off Facebook, bam, they're right back on it again. And it's just like an automatic impulse. And they don't realize that this 5G is literally programming them.
So let me ask you, how much, I mean, is 5G pretty prevalent across the whole United States, or are there still pockets of it?
The 5G grid is being built right now. Literally, if you start driving down the highways, you're going to start seeing the big towers. Right. So they're going to have the big towers, and they're going to be in our schoolyards. You'll start seeing them popping up in the schoolyards. They're going to be in our parks, and they're going to be like near the cemeteries, the big towers, and of course along the highways. Right now, when I drive to my boat, which is an hour drive, within the last 6 months, I have seen 5 cell towers, huge ones. I'm talking almost 100-foot tall cell towers popping up along the highway route. And I'm like, wow, this is really getting serious. But so those are the big ones. So they're going to submit, or they're going to send the signal, the millimeter wave, to now little transducer boxes, and they're going to call them cellular relay boxes. And they're going to be
those are on top of the light, street lights?
On top of the light posts, exactly.
I've seen a bunch of those.
So what's happening, and of course, California is ground zero for Agenda 21, Agenda 30, and we'll talk a little bit about that if we wanted to. But understand that when we talked on our phone in the past with 1G to 4G, when we put our...
Okay, you're busting up again. I don't know if it's me or you.
Put up to your head,
hold on.
You're getting the radio frequency.
Can you just say what you said over again?
Okay, with the cellular, with 1G to 4G, okay, with 1G to 4G, the cellular power, when you put your phone down, disappears. Okay, with 5G, you're always getting a constant bombardment of frequency. No matter if you have your phone on you or not, you're always. So where the health effects are coming is that it's going to affect the oxygen molecule. That's most important. Of course, if it affects the oxygen molecule, the number one nutrient the nervous system needs is oxygen. Second thing it does is our body's made of 70% water. It's going to affect our oxygen, 70% of our body. So we're talking about an increase in disease processes and an even more aggressive disease process within there, because now it's affecting the total body as well as the nervous system. And then, of course, we can go into...
You just got a lot darker. I don't know what happened. Did your light go out?
One of my lights shut off real quick. I got to turn it back on.
Yeah, go for it real quick.
Okay.
I can barely see you. Are you going to do it with your phone?
Yeah.
You're going to ask Sherry or whatever her name is?
No.
What's her name?
Who's Siri?
Siri, that's it.
Yeah, Siri's on the thing here, or on my... So there's one of the things that I'm trying to learn right now is how to get off of the 5G network before it comes in, get off the cell phone, you know.
So let me ask you this. I don't have a cell phone. What do I got to worry about? I mean...
it's not just a cell phone. Now you have the smart meters.
Right.
You have everything in the house is now becoming Wi-Fi and smart. So that Wi-Fi signal is also going to become also a 5G signal.
Now, what if you paint the inside of your house with that Wi-Fi paint? Do you think that's a good idea?
That's one of the things that they're saying that you can do. You can also buy special cases to put your phone in.
So when you put it in, that's like smoking a cigarette with a filter on it.
Yeah.
That's my analogy. least you got
Yeah.
a filter on that sucker.
Yes. Here, let me move to another room real quick, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
You can keep talking while you're on the line. too.
Yeah. So, anyways, with the 5G and what's coming, that's one of the things we're going to have to really be worried about is how it's going to affect, the nervous system, how it's also going to be affecting our community. And in our community, so we're going to see a lot more, of course, subluxation. We're going to see a lot more agitation and depression going on, as well as seclusion, where people are not even going to want to talk about it because they think that it's different or that they're different. And that's the same with like people that suffer from PTSD.
Right.
Working with even our servicemen and women, they come back, or even players, football players that come out from NFL or from a big high energy aggression sport, and all of a sudden they come out of it and then they have nothing. There's a lot of PTSD that goes on with that.
Sure.
And with that, there becomes, and with 5G, it's also known to cause traumatic brain injury. With mild TBI, traumatic brain injury, you're going to get those PTSD symptoms. You're going to get that seclusion, that aggression, and what have you. So as chiropractors, now once we start arming ourselves, we start knowing what's going on with it, then we can also start recognizing it and provide better treatment protocols, I guess.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I mean, one of the main reasons I called you is that I have the unit. I just haven't really learned how to do the marketing on that yet. Do you have a whole program that you can help me with on that?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
I have an entire partners program. What I'm doing is, of course, we're going to help you with the marketing. Of course, I also get you materials for education patients on hyperbaric, posters. We're also doing now studies with the 1.3.
Do you have any ads for social media that you've used in the past, or?
Yeah, there's ads but really what most important is really getting into the grassroots. When I first got my chamber, I went out to every plastic surgeon in Atlanta. I went to every wound center. I went to every
burn center.
I just went and sold my product, what I was passionate in, and that was how I was able to get a lot. Now, of course, with marketing and social media marketing, with Facebook, of course, you can literally now pinpoint exactly who you want to market to based on economic status and what have you. I would think a good social media campaign on all of the social media platforms, not just Facebook. I think there's some value going to be in some Instagram,
sure,
as well as the other ones. And then, of course, a good PPC program, and that's with Google. And PPC is pay per click.
Okay.
And those are your Google ads. Okay. You come up with a good Google ad that's catchy. Put yourself in the customer or the patient's point of view when looking that's going to be looking for a hyperbaric treatment or hyperbaric oxygen therapy, however you want to put it.
Okay.
And that's how I was successful, and just really and you don't have to spend a lot of money. It all depends on how big or how competitive your local market is.
Well, the funny thing is I've got 3 plastic surgeons in the same parking lot the same complex I'm in here.
You know what? Buy him in the office lunch. That's what I did. I used to go to the office and I would buy the whole office lunch, and I would do a little stand up, talk with them, and that's how I would get
there. Do you
their
have PowerPoint and stuff for all that stuff, or?
I did do that a couple of times. I think I lose them a little bit, so I rather talk to people face to face and look at them in the eye. I felt that I was able to convey my message more,
right.
But also I gave them information that they were able to look into, and then I followed up, of course, a week later, 2 weeks later. I'd always do a follow-up, and then I would also then leave them brochures of my business, and then the next thing you know, hey, here's a patient coming in from Dr. So-and-so's office. So Atlanta Hyperbaric Center really became more of, it was like a self-sufficient referral practice, because I just kept on getting in referrals from the different brain centers,
Right.
Stem cell centers and what have you.
Perfect. So you could actually use that as a marketing tool for your practice. And once you get into your office, you could have them, elect to see if they would like that.
Chamber, you're literally going to double your radius, if not quadruple. When I first got my chamber, of course, in Atlanta, there's a chiropractor in every other corner. As soon as I got a hyperbaric chamber, my radius went from 5 miles to 3 states.
Right.
I was getting patients from Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida, because also, and then some from South Carolina. So with that being said, there was nobody was doing it. Hyperbaric is now starting to catch, I think, now more than ever. Whereas before, it was like maybe 10% professional sales, and then I would mostly take care of personal people and helping them with their hyperbaric chambers. Now it's like 50-50. Helping out a lot more chiropractors now more than ever. A lot of chiropractic neurologists more than ever, helping them add more value to their care, but also increasing their marketing radius and showing them how they can become successful. But one of the great things is with my partnership program, when you become a partner, you also become part of our studies that we're doing. Right now we're going to be doing a PTSD study with the mild hyperbaric chamber and a TBI study. And of course we're going to continue doing more studies as well. And that is going to encompass all of the different offices. Their patients could submit their outcomes and protocols in for that scientific research. Perfect. So it's one of the good things of being a partner with us.
Okay, so one of the last point I just wanted to address before we wrap this thing up is, do you have the materials or at least the content that we could utilize to help us with the marketing rather than having to go invent the whole wheel over again? I mean, because whether it's PowerPoint or whether it's just notes, I need to know what talking points I need to utilize when I'm talking to a wound center, or I'm talking to a plastic surgeon, or I'm talking to, somebody that works on brain injuries, what have you.
Yep. Well, one of the great things, of course, we're going to be providing, of course, the educational materials, as well as I'm going to be having the forms, the proper, examination forms.
Okay, you're breaking up again. I don't know why.
And all of that, so you have all of that. So
you have to
offering all of that, of course.
Go back and reiterate what you just said, because you failed out.
Okay, we're going to be providing, of course, all of the exam forms, as well as disclaimers that patients sign, as well as the HIPAA forms as well then, of course, the educational materials. And then, of course, if anybody wants extra coaching, if they purchase a hyperbaric chamber from me, I don't charge anything for that coaching. I just try to help. My goal is to help as many people as possible to do the exact same thing I did within my community, and I've seen tremendous results. So, I'm willing to work with you. And, of course, some of my forms and my education materials, there are fees behind that. But my main objective, my main intention is to help people become successful with their hyperbaric chamber.
Okay, and can you give me, obviously if they buy a unit from you, the coaching's free, and is all the other materials free?
No, they would be they could pay for those. They're going to get a couple brochures for free so they can see what the materials are. But of course, if they want 20 or 30 of each one, and there's going to be, I think 8 or 10 different brochures. One's going to be on hyperbaric autism and PTSD and stroke, all focused around hyperbaric for either a chiropractic office or a physician's office. That they can just give to their patients, and they can put their name, their logo on the back of them and use them for their marketing materials.
Okay, and just to suffice my own curiosity, what do you charge for the partnership to be involved with this whole program?
Well, with the partnership right now, we just started. We're not charging anything. Okay. So you come on in now. You're the first person that wanted to become a partner so far that hasn't purchased a chamber from me. But we'll let you slide. But most people, when they buy a hyperbaric chamber from me, or the healthcare offices, we automatically get them into our partnership program.
All right, perfect. All right, well, how do they get a hold of you now?
Yeah, they can get a hold of me at, of course, go to AtlantaHyperbaricsCenter.com. There's always a chat box there. My assistants can get that and send it to me. Or you can call me at 770-948-4511.
They say that a little slower.
Yep, 770-948-4511. Or email me at docloveslife@yahoo.com.
And that's DOCLOVESLIFE.
At yahoo.com, exactly.
And that phone number, one more time, was
770-948-4511.
4591?
4511.
45911, sorry. It's the aluminum, bro. I'm
Yeah.
All right,
They had the nanoparticles sprayed over
we
the
had
other
like
day.
2 days of that shit. I'm so over it. All right, let's wrap. We're done. I want to do a recap before you go, so I'm going to click the end on this. That way, this one's cut and done.
Cal Jam is something you just have to go to, where if you really want to get reinvigorated, reignite your fire, and then stay on purpose with it too.
Rock and roll party where you're going to learn, even if you're a layperson, you're going to learn something. You're either going to learn a little bit about chiropractic or you're going to learn a little bit about what's happening in the world today. And the two of them will come together because I believe chiropractic is very important. I had cancer and my chiropractor is standing right here with me, and I believe that you need your whole body aligned to recover from whatever illness you have.
It's awesome. They have to come. They learn a lot.
It's not boring. It's going to be something that actually gets you motivated. It's different, and that's all that, most people come out here, it's the same thing. That's why I'm here a second year, and I'll be here next year.
Uplifting, informative, empowering. There's a lot of softness that happens too. One thing that I realized last year when I came was that my mindset was completely wrong in my child's healing. I was so angry still. And I'm like, that's okay. One thing that all the speakers have in common here is their mindset. They really believe what they're saying. And if I'm going to recover, and then I realized if I'm going to recover my daughter, I really have to believe it, and I can't be pissed off because that's not how healing happens.